All right, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about cutting tools. So we have a lot of tools in the wood shop we have to get through. The purpose of this is not to go through each machine in depth. It's just to introduce you to the different tools that we have in the room. So pay attention to each one. At the bottom of this assignment, you will see a sample Google Doc that will have pictures of each of the machines that we're going over. The assignment for today is I need you to have a reference for these because we're gonna go over so many and I want you to remember them all and what they're for. So on the Google Doc, just like we did the last time about making a copy of the Google Doc, I want you to open the template, make a copy, and then as you watch the video, you can fill out what each tool is and what basically we use it for. We're gonna get more in depth in each one later, but today we're just gonna do the basics, okay? And we'll explore the shop kind of like it's a level in a video game. Let's go virtually through the wood shop. You ready to get started? Let's get started. Okay, first we need to make sure our character is ready to go in the wood shop. Look at the safety hazards over here. First, let's get rid of the coffee cup. And look at the footwear. No way, boots are better. We don't need this backpack. Let's get rid of the hat. Well, we got a couple sweater options. Sweater, no sweater. Let's go no sweater. Safety glasses on, we're ready to go. Okay, so let's take a tour of the wood shop. This is the storage room where we keep all the wood. We have all kinds: maple, pine, cedar, walnut. All the wood is in here. We have some pine here. And this is where we keep some projects in the second cage. We're gonna start by just talking about cutting tools. After wood leaves the storage room, we need to cut it down to the right size. Right over here, I have laid out some hand tools, and these are all hand saws. The saws all do the cutting, and that makes the wood the shape we want. Now, when we cut wood, there are two types of cuts: cross cuts and rip cuts. If we look at this piece of wood, just like we described in the videos about wood, we see here the rings of the tree and the way it was sawn down. If you're gonna cut with the grain, that's called a rip cut. The wood grain is these little lines that correspond to the rings. That's how water and nutrients go up the tree. That's the wood grain. If we go with the grain, it's a rip cut. If we cut across the grain in this direction, perpendicular to the grain, that is a cross cut. And when things were done with hand saws, we had different saws for different cuts. A rip saw, which is this first one, would cut with the grain. And if you look at the teeth, they are, if this piece of metal was straight, you can see that they are slanted forward. So this saw cuts in the pushing motion. When you push the blade, it will cut, not on the way back. You can see that they are steep. They angle this way pretty dramatically, and then they come back up. Almost like the bottom of an R for rip. If you look at an R, that tooth on the R is kind of what this looks like for rip cut. A cross cut saw for going across the grain has much smaller teeth that are a little bit more like a triangle, less forward. Rip cuts, if you try to do either cut with the wrong saw, it will take a longer time, it'll be much more difficult. So that's cross cut and rip cut. Here's another example of a cross cut. You can see the style of teeth on this one are slightly different. They also angle left and right ever so slightly. And that allows you to remove a lot of wood at one time. And they can come in different sizes. Much smaller teeth. Smaller teeth means much finer cut, smoother cut. This saw is designed to sit flat on a table so that you can cut off little things like this dowel that was glued into that hole, so it's nice and smooth. You have a coping saw with this really thin, fine blade with small teeth, and this allows you to cut around curves very easily. Another fine-toothed saw for cutting joinery, or the finest tooth like this for metal. This is brand new, so the blade's on backwards. All right, so let's take these with us. The first saw we're going to talk about is the table saw. This is the table saw. This is designed to, this is one of the most versatile tools in the wood shop. It is designed to cut both rip and cross cut with a gauge to do cross cut and a fence to do rip cut. The blade has teeth facing forward, and this is a combination blade. So it has teeth that are designed to do rip, which these are, you can see the tooth on this. Let me get closer here. That's designed, that's like a rip tooth, like on the handsaw. And then the one behind it is for crosscut. You can see these teeth are angled forward. The amount of teeth that are on one of these blades and the angle that it's designed to be determine if it's a rip or a crosscut blade. This one is designed to do both. Table saw is one of the most useful tools we have in the shop for cutting wood down to the size we want it to be. Next, we're going to go over to one of the other primarily used saws in the shop, and that's the bandsaw over there. Here we have a smaller 14-inch bandsaw. We have a larger bandsaw and another large bandsaw. Bandsaws are named that because in here, because here's the blade is one long band of metal with teeth pointed down. And this blade will spin round and round in a circle. There's a wheel up here and there's a wheel down there, and the band goes around those wheels. So the blade would go up, down on this side, through the table, out the bottom, up the side. Now, if you look at the blade, you'll notice that it's a very similar shape to the saw. Let's bring up that handsaw one more time. Ah, there it is. So if we look at the saw teeth there, it's almost like this saw is going like that. And that's why when you use the handsaw and you push, this blade goes down and cuts the wood nice and easily there. The bandsaw can do both rip and cross cut perfectly fine. But it also can do a third cut, which is called resawing. We usually do that on the larger saws. So if we bring up our board, which shows rip cut, cross cut, if we wanted to cut this way, the thickness, like this, that's called resawing. Next we have the miter saw, or the chop saw. Similar to the table saw, it has teeth on the blade, but notice how close these are. This is all for cross cut. This blade is only for cutting across the grain. You never rip cut with this machine. So this is great for cutting boards down to the size we need, and we can set this to an angle in order to cut a board out at an angle that we would want. So that's the chop saw or the miter saw, known by both names. Next on our exploration of cutting tools is the scroll saw. Formerly known as a jigsaw, it has a very small blade with the teeth, as you can see, pointed down again. Unlike the bandsaw, which moves in a circle, this moves up and down. And that will slowly cut. It almost is like an electric version of a coping saw. Let's bring that coping saw back up again. Oh, that's my lunch. Ah, there we go. Coping saw that we looked at earlier. Small blade, almost the same motion. If this were going by hand, that is mechanical. You can angle this also, formerly known as a jigsaw, because if you make a jigsaw puzzle and you got to cut really tight curves, this allows you to cut very intricate curves just like a puzzle piece. And that's it for cutting tools. Between the hand saws, the scroll saw, the hand saws, the band saws, and the table saws, and the chop saws or miter saws, we can cut a piece of wood down to any shape or size we want. Okay, so let's pause it right there. We just talked about only the cutting tools today. So fill out the template based on the cutting tools. When you're done, submit the document, and then next time we're gonna keep going through the shop. Have fun.